Carson Hocevar has a gift, and right now it might be destroying his career before it even starts. A 23-year-old with more raw speed than half the Cup Series grid, faster than some of the most decorated names in NASCAR. And yet after what went down at Michigan, he now has some of the sport's biggest names lining up against him, including a driver who had every reason to go at him and instead delivered something far more cutting than anger. Bubba Wallace didn't go off. He sat on the pit wall, looked Hocevar in the eye, and told him the quiet part out loud. And what he said speaks to a much bigger problem that NASCAR can no longer ignore. Lap 83, restart. Spire is running inside the top 10 on the bottom lane when he makes contact with John Hunter Nemechek heading into turn 1. The hit sends Nemechek's number 42 spinning, and what follows is a chain reaction that sweeps up Austin Dillon, Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano, Bubba Wallace, Tyler Reddick, and Ty Gibbs. Reddick and Dillon are done for the day. Wallace's car takes light damage and he rolls on. Denny Hamlin ultimately wins the race by over 10 seconds. Wallace climbs to third. Hocevar, who started on the front row after Hamlin got dropped to the rear, fades to fifth. Close enough to sting, far enough to remind him what he left on the table. And after the checkered flag, Wallace and Hocevar are seen sitting together on the pit wall. That conversation is what everyone is talking about. This is not a one-time incident for Carson Hocevar. This has been his story all season. The number 77 Spire Motorsports Chevy has legitimate speed, the kind of pace that mid-tier teams dream about. Hocevar has earned real respect for his ability to mix it up with factory-backed cars and equipment that, on paper, shouldn't be anywhere near them. But there's a pattern. When the move works, it's a highlight. When it doesn't, it's someone else's afternoon destroyed over time. That math doesn't balance out. Drivers remember, crew chiefs remember. The NASCAR garage is a closed community, and reputations form fast. What's critical here is the timing. Hocevar is 23 years old. He's at the exact stage where how he handles this next stretch could define whether he ends up in a top-tier ride or spends his prime years bouncing between underfunded teams. The talent is obvious. The question is whether the discipline catches up to it. Let's talk about what Bubba Wallace actually said, because it wasn't a lecture and it wasn't a threat. It was something more surgical than that. Wallace acknowledged the speed. He called it natural ability. He said other drivers are jealous of it. That is not something a veteran says unless he means it. That is earned praise. And then he flipped it. We're beating you because we can put a race together better than you. That line is everything. He's not questioning whether Hocevar belongs. He's questioning whether Hocevar can translate what he has into what it needs to become. Consistency beats aggression over a full season. Speed means nothing if you can't convert it into stage points, playoff positioning, and clean laps under pressure. Right now, Hocevar is essentially taking out insurance money on his own talent every time you overdrive a situation. There's also the strategic dimension that doesn't get enough attention. Alliances in NASCAR are real. Drafting partners are chosen. Pit road favors are extended. When a driver has a reputation for being unpredictable, those invisible networks close off. That is not a small thing. That can cost you wins at super speedways. That can cost you a push when you desperately need one late in a race. The dive bomb into turn 3 late in the same race, nearly collecting Wallace again, is the detail that matters most. That wasn't a first lap heat of the moment mistake. That was the same approach, same race, different lap. That's not chaos, that's habit. And habits at 180 miles per hour have consequences. The NASCAR fan base is genuinely split here, and that divide is worth examining. There is a loud contingent, especially among younger fans, who love what Hocevar represents. Fearless, wide open, no hesitation. In a sport that sometimes gets criticized for being too processional, there's something electric about a driver who attacks every restart like it's his last. But longtime fans and analysts who understand the long game are sounding the alarm. The optics of an 8-car pileup mid-race that traces back to one driver's move, that is hard to defend regardless of talent level. And Wallace's framing is going to stick. He didn't come out hot. He was measured. That actually makes it worse for Hocevar. It's harder to dismiss measured, respectful criticism than it is a heated post-race blow-up. When a veteran calmly tells you that you're losing because of your own decisions, that tends to be the version of events that the garage believes. Hocevar hears what Wallace said, internalizes it, and starts channeling that speed into smarter, calculated aggression. He keeps making the bold moves, but he learns to pick his spots. By the back half of the season, he's converting top 5 pace into top 5 pacing consistently. A top team notices. A contract conversation starts. The habit doesn't change. The wrecks keep coming. Hocevar racks up the fast laps and the highlight reel passes, but the drivers around him begin to race him differently, more defensively, less cooperatively. His equipment stays where it is, and the gap between the talent he has and the results he produces becomes the defining story of his career. The what could have been narrative starts early. Here is the real question that nobody has answered yet. At what point does raw speed without discipline stop being a potential and start being a liability? Bubba Wallace handed Carson Hocevar a mirror at Michigan. What Hocevar does with that reflection is going to tell us everything about who he becomes in this sport. Drop your take in the comments. Is Hocevar a future Cup Series champion who just needs time to figure it out, or is this pattern already too deep to change? And if you want more breakdowns like this every week, you already know what to do.